if you're practicing your stuff and you find that, you break things, that happens, right? Sometimes you got to look online. Sometimes you got to break things. Sometimes you got to fix things. And when I'm not talking about programming. I'm talking about the operation of your computer, right? And I think that ties in nicely with what we're doing right now. Really, sometimes the best way to do it is from the terminal. For you folks who have a Mac OS, opening that terminal gives you access to things you wouldn't otherwise have access to. In Windows, it's a little bit different because Windows is a really different operating system. Most of the stuff, if you want to make any changes, you can do it from the registry. If you're not familiar with the registry, it's not a place that you want to go messing around with stuff. And most of the stuff, I don't even know how it works. And people just say, go here, run this thing, run this command, and it'll work. And it's kind of scary sometimes. But it's good. This is one of the reasons why you might want to back up your computer on a regular basis. If you're messing around with things, having that portable drive and just backing up your computer is extremely helpful. Okay, so we left off yesterday with obviously some basic introductory commands. For those of you who are running Mac OS, you might have saw me do a command in the code command that opens VS Code from your Mac terminal, and you might have tried it and said, oh, it doesn't work. I'm going to post something in Discord right now. It's a link to a little thing that you have to get. So you have to install that through VS Code. And you just have to find the right key combination. It's like 3 keys. And then it says, do you want us to install that shortcut? And you just say, yep. And that's it. It'll install that shortcut. So I'll post a link in our Discord chat. Okay. And you just got to scroll down to the answers, the top answer that has the information. Okay. But where are we here? Lots of stuff going on here. Okay, so we are lesson 2. Over here. No. Jeez. So I'm a little scatterbrained right now. Tools and automation, lesson 2. More bash, right. Okay, we're learning more commands. But first, we should probably look at yesterday's examples. Okay, so I'll share my screen here. Okay, and we'll pick up yesterday's examples online here. We are SD 130. Tools and automation. Intro to bash. Okay, so let's do this. So I'm going to pop this over to the right-hand side here, and I'll get a terminal going on the left-hand side, get a terminal going on the right-hand side. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to use the Linux terminal. If you're using Git Bash or if you're using Mac OS, it's all the same. Okay. I'll make that nice and big. So I'm starting here in my home directory. I finally have one item in here. Okay, and that's from this morning's practice. So when I ls-la or -l or ll in my case, okay, you can see that, or even just ls. Okay, I can see that. I do like ls-l most. And lucky for me, that's an alias. So that may not be true for you, but we are going to learn how to correct that. So run the following commands. We're going to make a directory. Make dir temp. Cool. No feedback. Success. Now we're going to, without moving into that directory, okay, and this is one of the key parts about Bash, is most of the time we never need to be executing the commands from the directory that we want to run the command in, right? So I want to make a directory inside temp called stuff. I don't need to be in the temp directory to do it. I just have to tell Bash where to run this command from. So I'm essentially saying, go into temp, go into the directory temp, and create a new directory, stuff. That's essentially what I'm doing, okay? And I can give it a very specific path, like a full path, or I can give it a relative path, right? Relative to where I am, right? And this is no different than how we did our absolute and our relative paths in HTML. Okay, so this right here is a relative path, no slash in the front, nothing else in the front. This is also still kind of a relative path because it's relative to my home, okay? Alternatively, I could do the absolute path from the root of the file system where it starts, where the top of the tree is located, and I could draw that line all the way down. Okay, so that would be slash home slash users slash jNizel, I think. Slash home slash jNizel, okay, not users, slash jNizel. So this is also home. Okay, this is the real home directory. Tilde is just it's an alias, okay? For every user that's on your computer, there will be another folder inside this home directory. So I'm the only user on this computer, so there's just one in here. So I can make a dir from here. So if this is my home directory, and I was making this directory off of home, that means temp t tab exists there, right? That's where it exists. And I said stuff exists in temp, so stuff is in there. And I'm gonna make a directory things. Okay, so I can make it absolute, I can make it relative. All I have to make sure I do is give it the path of where I want this new directory to be created, okay? So I created the things directory, which is in the stuff directory, which is in the temp directory and jNizel directory under home. Okay, so this is the absolute path. This would have been the relative path. Both of them are acceptable. Now we're gonna try a different one, okay? And I said, add the argument, add the parameter or the option -p, okay? And run this command. So temp, stuff, things, that already exists. Fran, Joe, Alice, Jane, none of those exist, okay? And it worked. I want to show you something though. I want to show you what it looks like to try to create a set of, so try it without the option. Temp, test, temp, right? So temp directory already exists. Test inside that does not, but temp does not. So I'm going to try creating it without the -p flag. Multiple directories. So nested directories, like I'm trying to create a structure of nested directories without the -p flag, okay? But when I do the -p flag, it worked fine. If I don't do the -p flag, it says cannot create the directory temp test temp, no such file or directory. What does this tell you about make dir and make dir dash p. Nothing?
I think basically with the minus, with the dash P, you could make multiple directories in one line, or without, you won't be able to.
So that's pretty close. So you can make multiple directories in one line without dash P. For example, make dir test, test1, test2. Okay. So I made 3 directories. Let me do a listing. You can see test, test1, test2, right? So I didn't use dash P there. But what I can't do is create a directory inside a directory that doesn't exist, right? So in this case, make dir something new again. So the directory something doesn't exist. And if that doesn't exist, then this doesn't exist. And if this doesn't exist, then this doesn't exist. So none of these exist yet. And if I wanted to do this all in one shot, making those nested directories, I have to use the dash P flag. Okay. Otherwise, it will give me that error, no such file or directory. So now I can see, okay, I created the something directory and it has new inside of it. Okay. And again inside of that. So I can create that nesting either manually by creating one directory at a time, okay, or I can do it all in one line using the dash P flag. Okay.
So P kind of stands for path?
I don't know. Make dir. Pretty much every command has a dash dash help on it. So if you wanted to know the different flags, make dir option directory. So options. P, parents. P stands for parents. No error if existing. Make parent directories as needed. So you can make those parent directories as required if they don't exist. That's what P stands for, parents. You can run this on any, like ls dash dash help. And it gives you a ridiculous ton of options, right? Look at all these options. Okay, most of them I don't know. Most of them I don't know what they do. People kind of like, if you're a system administrator and you live in here, you probably still don't even know what these all do. These are old commands. Bash shell is old. Okay, so bash is born again shell. It's a newer-ish version. Z shell is even newer. Okay, and so there's a lot of information out there about this stuff. Okay, and a lot of stuff that you'll never use. So where am I located right now? What directory am I in? Can you see?
Something new.
Home, something new. Yeah. So you can see that from the prompt, or if I just went pwd, you can see I'm in home jnisel something, right? pwd, print working directory, will give you the absolute path. This is a relative path. Okay. All right, let's check my work. I think we already did that, but let's do it from here. Capital R, ls dash capital R. Whoa, what does that do? I think you're on mute, Kevin.
Sorry.
Check your work. So what does the capital R do? What does it look like it does? What does it look like it does?
Showing individual lines.
Okay. Now, what if I did this without the capital R? ls dash L. Did it show me the contents of these directories? ls-l, does it show me the contents of those directories?
No.
No, but ls-r, it went into all the directories and showed me all the stuff inside of them, all the way down. Okay, it went into temp, stuff, things, Fran, temp, stuff, things, Fran, Joe. What's inside of there? Alice, temp, stuff, things, Fran, Joe, Alice, went inside of there, Jane, right? It showed me everything all along the way. This -R stands for recursive. You're going to hear that and see that often when you're working in the command line. Recursive means don't just go into one directory, go into all the directories inside, and then go into all the directories inside of that, and all the directories. So keep going down until you cannot go down any further, right? If we're talking about a tree, right? If this hierarchy of files and folders is a tree, we're saying at some point, I'm going to ask you to go down all the way down to the tree. Look in all of those files and folders all the way down to you cannot go anymore. And so that's what this is doing. This is printing out the listing for all the files and folders inside this home directory, all of them, not just the first child, all of the children. Okay. R, capital R recursive. That's a common, it's not common to use it in a listing, but it's a common command. It's a common flag that you're going to use for other commands. Okay, changing directories. So we're going to cd into the Joe directory with one command. So where's this Joe directory? It's way over here, okay? And we are in the home directory. So I'm here and I want to go into here. And I can do that in one shot if I use the path to that directory. Okay, cd temp stuff things Fran Joe. I can go all the way down. I can directly go into a specific directory. I don't need to walk the path. I can teleport there. Okay, so I teleported there. I didn't go there by going cd temp, cd stuff, cd things, cd Fran, cd Joe. Okay, I can teleport there as long as I know the relative path, or I can get to the absolute path from where I am. You can always get somewhere with an absolute path, and you can always pretty much get somewhere with a relative path too, right? cd back to temp with one command. Okay, I get back here. We go cd ... So we're in Joe right now. ... will bring us up to Fran. / ... will bring us up to things. / ... will bring us up to stuff. / ... will bring us up to temp. And we should teleport directly to the temp directory. Okay, so again, ... means just step back, step back, step back. We don't need the name of our parent directory. In fact, you cannot do it with the name of your parent directory. For example, if I went into stuff and I wanted to go back up to temp, I cannot go cd temp. It wants to go down. When I give it a name, it's trying to go down into that directory, never up. If I want to go up, I always have to use ... all the time. Okay, and that brings me up. Change directory, ... So we can teleport directly. Okay, we could pretty much run any command directly from anywhere as long as we know the path. cd to our documents directory. Find it within your file browser. So the documents directory. So that will be, I'll go there from here. I'm in temp, I'm in the temp directory, My documents directory is in home. So I'm going to go cd home / capital D tab. Oh, DOC. There's a couple documents, couple D's, capital D's. Eh? Oh, I don't have a documents directory in here. Let's create one. Yep, now I can go there. Documents. Okay, I'm in Linux. I don't have a documents directory. But you would in your Windows. And you would in your Mac. You would in your Linux too if it was a visual Linux. Okay. CD to your downloads directory. Well, I don't have one, but I'll make one. Thank you. Actually, I have one on my Windows side. I can access my Windows side from here. That is CD. We'll just make one. Your downloads, CD, downloads. And remember to put quotes around directories that have spaces within. Okay. And a little task here. So we're going to start with a blank screen. Starting in our home directory, print out the name to the terminal, pwd. Make a new directory called shell exercise. Make dir shell exercise. I hope you can start to appreciate why now I don't like using spaces in my file or directory names, because it's not, I don't like putting quotes or escaping in here. Okay, and that's pretty common. Change this new directory we just made, cd shell exercise. Change directory into shell exercise. Create a new file, touch, index.html. Create a new file called main.js. Touch, main.js. Okay, let's take a look at what we got. We got 2 files in here. Let me just unzoom a little bit so it looks a little bit better. 2 files in here. List the files of the current directory. Yeah, I just did that. From here, create 2 more directories called JS and CSS, but do it in one command. So that's that make dir command I showed you earlier without the P, because I'm making 2 separate directories, not a directory inside of another. Right? So I'm going to make a JS and a CSS directory. They're just separated by spaces. And if I look, I have a CSS directory and a JS directory right there. Okay. Now I want you to use the move command and move these. Oh, I was supposed to create a CSS file too. Touch. Styles.css. Move the styles.css to styles. Move the JS file to the JS directory. Okay. Move main.js to the JS directory. Okay, that's what it's doing. If it finds this as to be a directory, it will move it into there. If it finds that this is a file that exists already, it will do nothing. It will return an error. It will say JS already exists. If this directory doesn't exist at all, it will, or a file doesn't exist, it will rename this to this. But luckily, this is a directory, so it knows. Move it. So now if I look, it's gone. Main.js is no longer there. And if I went into the JS folder, you can see that it's there. We're going to repeat this process for the index file, for the CSS file. And I'll show you what I meant before. If I move styles.css to something that doesn't exist, CSSSS, right? That's not a file, nor is it a directory. Okay, so if I try to move it there, what it's going to do instead of move it, it's going to rename it. Watch. Now, it lost that .css, but that .css that's there. That's okay. We can re-add it. It's not a big deal if a file loses the extension. It's not a big deal if your file is renamed. You can always change it back. Okay, it's just a name. .css, .html, .js, those extensions, those are just part of the file name. That's it. They do special things, but you can always just re-add it. So I can move this back. CSS, styles, and actually I will move it to the right directory, CSS, and I will give it a new file name while I'm moving it at the same time. Styles.css. So I'm moving it into this new file inside this directory. So you can do that. And that will move it and rename it. So now if I go into the CSS, there it is. Okay. The power, right? There's a lot of power. And then just open this directory in Explorer. I don't know if I have access to my Explorer from here. I don't. Open dot? No. I'm in Linux, so I don't have anything. If you're in Windows, you type in Explorer. If you're in Mac, you type in open dot, and it will open this folder at that location. Okay, I'll actually move back to Git Bash just so we can see these things happen in real time for today. Okay, any questions on any of the stuff we learned yesterday? Because we're going forward, okay? Now, again, these exercises are not adequate for you to become good at this stuff. You need more. So you need to be practicing this stuff on your own, okay? Which means you need to be using, again, I said this yesterday, I said this morning, you need to be using this thing on your own as a tool, okay? That's the only way you're going to get good. And I'm going to expect that you do that because I can't just say, run this command, right? Like it's too copy and paste. It's just too rote, right? This stuff isn't learned in a rote manner. Rote being like you just continue and continue and just like just do this command, do this command, do this command, do this command, do this command. You're not going to learn that way. You have to stop and think and experiment and play. Okay, I can teach you the commands. I can get you to experiment with them a little bit, but really a lot of this is going to be on your own. Okay, making mistakes, correcting your mistakes, testing out different things. What happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? I'm going to ask John why this happened. Okay, that's what I need from you. We will be using the terminal for the next 2 months. Okay, whether you like it or not. And employers love this stuff. Okay, so we keep continuing. I've got some new commands to teach you today. Let's see here. More bash. Okay. Ooh, stuff looks good. So we're gonna do git bash for now instead. We'll move this over there. That one. This one bigger. Cool. All right. So we're in my home directory. So when we are using a web browser, right, we have the ability to download stuff from the internet. Right? I can go and I can find a picture. Let's go find a picture. Let's go find a picture of a Cylon from Battlestar Galactica. Okay, so this is an old one, and I don't want that. I want this picture. Open link in a new tab. Open image in a new tab. Okay, so I have this image here with a URL to it, okay? And now imagine you're trapped inside of a computer that doesn't have a web browser, that doesn't have a GUI, that doesn't have mouse. Okay, not uncommon. Okay, in our industry, you will find yourself in a position where you're accessing a computer that exists in another city. Okay, and you don't have access to an interface. The only thing you have access to is this terminal. How can I pull a file down from the internet using just this terminal? And the answer is a command called curl. Okay, it actually stands for C URL. Okay, we're going to see the URL, curl. Okay, we're going to curl it. Okay, and I can curl any URL. I'm just going to copy and paste that here. What do I paste? Control C, Control V. I don't know how to paste into here. Options.
With the right click and paste.
Right click and paste. Shift, insert. So if ever you're not sure about the shortcut keys, they're right here when you're looking at the shortcuts. So shift, insert. Okay, that's fine. Not great, but shift, insert. There we go. So I pasted, so I'm going to unzoom here because it looks a little bit crazy. So there we go. I'm curling this URL. So I'm going to pull this down. Okay, so watch this. Enter. And there's our image. It's pretty, hey? Can you not see it over Zoom? It looks like the Matrix, right? So this is a representation of the image. It's not the image itself, okay? But what we can do, the big piece we're missing is we pulled the image and we're trying to display the image in the terminal. And the terminal isn't graphical, right? It's text-based. And so the images don't display well with text. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to save it, okay? So we're going to save the image with curl. So curl has this other option that we need, -O, that stands for output. Where do we want to create this new file? And so I'm just going to create a new file called Cylon.jpg, and it will take this URL and it will output it to Cylon.jpg. Okay. And we get a little thing here that shows us that we did a download, okay, how long it took, the speed. And if I go to my Explorer here, I can see that indeed I downloaded Cylon.jpg and it is there. And I can open it and we can see this now exists on my computer. I downloaded it. What else can I download? I can download anything. I can download Google. Google.com. Okay, so I'm going to take this one here. We're going to go over to Explore. We're going to curl some Google. So we're going to say CURL-O. And what is this? What am I downloading here? Google.com. What is that?
HTML page.
HTML page. That's right. So let's call it Google.html. And shift insert to paste, Google.com. And we downloaded it. Let's take a look. What does it say? There's Google.com or Google HTML. Let's open it. And here we go. Occasionally, now there's some crazy characters. It didn't download the CSS. It didn't download the JavaScript. Just Google.com. Okay. Occasionally, you might need to put another little flag in there. For example, if I try to download just Google.com, not www.google.com, which are actually very different things, I'll store it in that file. It should destroy that file. Let's see. yeah, it overrode that file. So be careful which file name you put here. It doesn't ask you and say, hey, that file already exists. Do you want me to overwrite it? It just smashes it. Okay, so be careful. And let's see what that one says. That one says google.com, so non-www, has been moved here. And you can see that this actually is a redirect to www.google.com. So that's called a redirect. And sometimes that happens in the web, okay? When I want to change my URL, but I want to redirect all the traffic that goes to my old URL to my new URL. So in curl, if we want to follow those and find the real version, we have to put dash L, follow redirects, capital dash L, follow redirects. Okay, you can see curl dash help dash H, okay? And to see all the options on curl. Again, you don't need to, you only need to go into this when you're like, this isn't working, why? Or, how do I do this with curl? Okay, and then you come into here and you go look. So I'm just going, let's go look for the dash L option here. Oh, there's so many. Dash L, location. Follow redirects. Okay, dash L or dash dash. So there's two ways that you can use these flags. Either dash letter, and most of these flags are the same, dash letter or dash dash. Okay, and that will follow the redirects, and I end up with the same google.com as I was before, because it actually followed those redirects all the way until it found with the real google.com. So sometimes you have to do that. Curl, CURL. That allows us to download any file. We just have to know what kind of file it is so we know how to save it. Okay. If you don't know what you're downloading, like I knew the first one I was downloading a JPEG because it says in the URL it's a JPEG. So I save it as a JPEG file. This one, I know it's an HTML file. So I'm downloading it as an HTML file. It doesn't get all the extra stuff. It doesn't get the styles. It doesn't get all the images on the page, right? But it brings in the HTML. And we can look at that and actually see the HTML. It's kind of like viewing the page source. That's what it's kind of like doing, okay? It's like pulling in that page source and saving it to a file. Okay. Next up, what do we got? Cat. Okay, so cat. The cat command is short for concatenate. And what it's doing, we're familiar with concatenation, right? Because we concatenate strings. So we're taking one string and we're taking another string and we're merging them together. In this sense, it's a little bit different. What it's doing is it's taking the contents of any file that we tell it, like this google.html file that I just downloaded, and it's going to concatenate the contents of that file with the terminal. Essentially, it prints it out to the terminal. Watch. Cat google.html. Boom. Print out the contents of google.html to the terminal. So concatenate it, it just like adds it, it appends the contents of that to the terminal so you can see it. Okay, cat. So you can just cat a file and see what's inside. We're most of the time in terminal, we're working with text files. We're working with code, JavaScript files, HTML files, not binary files like that image, right? We might move around binary files like that image. We might download them. We might use them for something, but we won't concatenate that to the screen because you saw what happens when I cat cylon.jpg, right? If I cat cylon.jpg, I get the matrix. And I can't read that.
So, sorry, is this the way you do with your example, like JavaScript file for our assignments, or?
What do you mean? Is this the way I do it? Well, like I like to operate in the terminal as much as possible. Cat doesn't do anything. Cat just prints out the contents. So like for your JavaScript assignments, I look at them in code, right? This is, you just want to look at the contents of a file. You don't want to do anything with it. You're curious to see what's in it. Because, I don't know, maybe you don't remember, right? Maybe you're like, oh, what's in this file again? Google.html. I think I want to delete that. Let me just double check to see what's in it, Google.html. Oh, yeah. That's that dumb file I downloaded that one time. Okay, okay. I want to delete it, right? Cat kind of just does that. It just gives you like that quick, like, here's what's in the file without having to open the file in something. It just spits out the contents. This isn't running it. We're not running it, okay? We're just spitting it out, spitting out the contents of the file. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's great, but sometimes we have really long files. And Cat, let me see if I find any long files just kicking around here. I should. Let's make one. Let's open this. Open with code, and we'll just make a really long file. So we'll do copy. Actually, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to fill it with lorem ipsum to give you. Oh, wait, there's a lorem ipsum generator built into code, right? Lorem. And I could do like multiple paragraphs. Lorem times 10. We'll Control Shift Home, copy. Okay, cool. So we got a really long file here. If I cat google.html, which is the file I just edited, I get this really long thing, okay? And if I could scroll back, that's it. Let's take all this again. Let's try that again. Should be longer. We can go, it is longer than this, but it's not showing the whole file. We can go page by page with a command called less. So google.html allows us, so less, the less command prints out one page at a time.
From search.
Okay, so this is page 1. Space goes to the next page. 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 Q quits. Less. You will have to read about that one, but that's how you paginate through a really long text file in the terminal. Less. Okay. See that again? It's kind of like a program. Less is a tiny program. It's not just spitting the contents out. It's a tiny program that has very limited keys. Space to go to the next page. Next page. Space. Next page. Space. Next page. And you see there's that little colon at the bottom. It's waiting for input. It's got a little flashing bar. Okay. Space, 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 space. It's going through the file, usually about a page at a time. Okay, and then, or I can just keep hitting space until I get to the end. If I want to quit, it's just Q. And it brings me back to the terminal. So I'm in the terminal the whole time. Okay, that's how we can go through the file piecewise, piece by piece. Yep.
I have a question. So
Yeah.
you mean like if I press space, that's going to the next page. How about going to the previous page?
That's a good question. Let And HTML. So down goes up one line, up, can't go up, page up, back, forward goes forward,
B.
D goes back. So actually it's D and F. D and F is probably better. F goes forward, D goes back. Wait, no. G goes to the top. G goes to the top. Oh, wow, interesting. Let's do. I'm not really good with this one. I use more, which is a really old version of less, and it doesn't even exist on here. Honestly, you won't use less very often. And if you need to know how to go back, you just gives you all the things. Forward one line, backward one line, forward one window, backward one window, forward one window. There's a lot of little commands here. It's actually fairly complicated if you wanted to really get into it. Some people are probably really good at less. I'm not super good at less. I have my things, right? The things that I use, and less isn't really one of them, but I want to show you anyways. All right, 10 minutes here. Okay, so we've got a couple more things to cover. Remove dir. Okay, so remove, RM. Okay, RM removes a file, deletes a file. Okay, not to the recycle bin. Gone. So remove google.com or google.html. That's it, gone. No, are you sure? Okay, just gone. Careful. Okay, just gone. Here's the thing though. So you can remove, you cannot remove directories. So let me make a directory here. Make dir test. We'll go and I'll rm test. Okay, I made a directory test. I'm going to remove test. Cannot remove test. It's a directory. Okay. And here's something else that's interesting. If I go into test and I'm in order to remove test, I have to use remove dir. So remove removes files. RM dir removes directories. So I can remove the directory test, no problem. But what I can't do, let me remake that directory. Okay, and I will go into that directory and I'll create a file. Is I can only remove empty directories. So there is a file that I created inside the directory called test, right? If I list the contents of test, you can see there's a file in there. So I'm listing the directory contents of test. There's a file in there. So I can't remove that test directory. Fail to remove the test directory. The directory is not empty. So what instead I need to do, I need to delete the files inside if I wanted to remove the directory. So I'd have to go into test, or I can remove it from here and say test/remove the file index.html in the test directory, right? I don't have to be in that directory to issue the command and tell it where. So remove the file test index.html inside the test directory. And now I can remove the directory test. Okay. RM dir.
So can we remove multiple folders by saying test space test1 space?
Good question. Make dir test1, test2, test3. I'm here. Test 1, test 2. Yes. Yeah. It's always worth trying these things out. Okay. Next up, we're going to look at grep. Grep allows us to search through a file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for, do I have a good file that we can look in here? Nice shot. Downloads, nothing in downloads. Let's download something. Let's download this Wikipedia page with the Cylons. So we're going to download this page. It's an HTML page, so we're going to curl it. So I'll make a directory called test. We'll go into test and we'll download it there. So we'll curl dash O Cylons, dash O, not 0, Cylons.html. Okay, and we're going to add this L just in case. And here's the URL, shift insert. And it didn't like that, so I'm going to put some quotes around here. There we go. Okay, it did not like the parentheses in here, so I just put quotes around it, and it figured it out. That's not uncommon. Okay, so there we go. I have Cylons.html, and actually, if I think I can open that with. Can I open Cylons? No, open is not a command. But I can go and look in my Explorer, and I have test and Cylons, and I can open that, and there we go. I'm going to look for a string in here. Okay, so I'm going to use the discuss these issues. Okay, or no, let's go find this word reptilian race, these two words, reptilian race. So I'm going to use a command called grep to search the subtext for subtext reptilian race. So it goes like this: grep, string that I'm looking for, shift insert, file that I want to look in. So grep, string that I'm looking for, file that I want to look in. And it prints out some stuff because it found it. Again, this is one of the things I don't like about this terminal is it just overrides stuff. I'm just going to pop into my other terminal to show you better. Okay. So grep, Control V, oh no, reptilian race. File I want to look in is Cylons.html. There, this is better. It doesn't do some crazy override. It highlights it for me. It finds the text that I'm looking for and it highlights it for me. That's grep. Okay, so grep allows you to look in files for a particular text. What actually grep is really powerful, it can look in a folder of files to find a piece of text. So if you're like, I know this word or I know this block of code. So usually how we use it is like, I know this block of code exists, or I know this method exists in one of these files, but I don't know which one, and there's 100 files there. I'm not going to open each one individually and look through the 100 files and look for this function name or this method name. You can grep an entire folder and look for things. You can grep files. you can grab folders, you can grab your whole computer and look for this one word that exists somewhere in your computer, okay? It's extremely powerful. And these tools are much faster than the ones that are built into the operating system. Spotlight, Windows Search, these tools have been around for years and years and years and years and years. Okay, they're well tuned. So grep, super powerful. You can also get you can get things like, so it prints out, the way grep works is it finds the line and it prints out the line. And it just so happens that this line is really long. So it looks like multiple lines, but it's actually not. It's just one really long line. Every time it finds it, it prints out that one line. It doesn't tell you which line it is. I think you could turn on line numbers in grep. I don't know how. I'm not like, again, I'm pretty good at this stuff, but I'm not amazing at this stuff. So I would think that you can turn on line numbers. So grep-r recursive. And that will look in this entire directory for it, not just one file. So in here, I didn't give it a file to look in. I just ran this in the directory, and it's just going to run it on every file in this directory and return it to me. And then it tells me which files it found that in. Grep is extremely powerful. Grep. Just a couple more and we're done. Okay. So wildcards. Wildcards are things like this. So I'm in JNIZI, I'm in test. I have an HTML file. I'm going to create another HTML file, test.html, and I'll create a CSS file. Oops, touch test.html and styles.css. So create two files. So this is what I got in here. So HTML, CSS, HTML. I'm going to remove all the files that end in HTML. Remove RM, right? Normally I would say index or test.html, cylons.html, but that can get a little bit long, especially when you have lots of files that you want to remove. So instead, you can use stars as wildcards. Star. Go find everything, star.html, and star represents anything, anything.html. Okay, and this will remove all the HTML files. Gone. Stars can be at the beginning or they can be at the end. So I'll create another file called styles.html. So now I have two files, styles.css and styles.html. This time, instead of removing all the HTML files, I'm going to remove everything that starts with the word styles. Styles.star. So it doesn't matter what it ends with, as long as it starts with styles.star. Styles. And now I look, and everything's gone. The star is called a wildcard, and it works anywhere that you're using a file or directory name, okay? And it matches anything. So as long as it starts with styles dot, it could have been this, touch styles dot thing dot CSS. It would still match that because it starts with styles dot. Okay, so it will remove that. It's not just with RM. It's not just with, it's with anything. Those wildcards work with anything. So star is a wildcard. It matches as many characters as you need to. Okay, that's wildcards. We'll look at piping now. Last two. So piping. So this is piping. First, I'll show you a command. The history command. the history command shows you all the commands you've typed. Okay. What I often do is I will go and write these complex commands sometimes, and I'll come back 2 months later and I'll be like, I need to run that command again. I don't remember what it was, but I remember it had the word reptilian in it. So I will often go into my history, but my history, as you start using your bash, is going to grow huge, 10,000 lines, right? Too big to look through. But remember, we have grep. So grep can look for keywords. So I can look in my history for keywords. But the thing is, I have to pass history to grep. And so there's a command called pipe. So history is a command and grep is a command. I need to connect those together. And so history, take the results of history and pipe, which is half of an OR, and pipe them into grep and look for reptilian. And it took the results of history, passed it into grep, and there's reptilian, and showed me the two commands that I ran that had the word reptilian in it. Piping. Okay. Again, I don't expect you to like use all this stuff all the time. I just expect that you are exposed to it and that maybe it'll ring a bell. And last but not least, we're going to do some redirection. So here, it prints it out to the terminal, but anytime we want, we can print the output out to a file. It'd be anything. We call it anything we want. So this little arrow here is saying, instead of printing the output to the screen, print it out to a file. If this file exists, it will write to that file. If this file does not exist, it will create the file. So you see it didn't print anything out. Instead, it put it into this file called output.txt to text. Now I can open that, or I can cat it output.txt text, and it prints the results. If I run it again, okay, after it already exists, it blows a single arrow, destroys whatever contents were there previously, and adds new content. You can do double arrow, and double arrow will add it to the end. So I appended it. Okay. Whew. It's a lot. That's only like 4 videos worth of stuff for you to watch tonight too. In all honesty, I'll be honest with you. Most of these commands, I would say you're using 90% of the commands. I would say on average, you use about 30% of the commands I showed you 90% of the time, right? So you don't need a lot to be good. The important thing is you have to be open, you have to be willing to experiment, and you have to be willing to figure these things out, because you can get yourself into trouble if you're not careful and you don't practice. And you do need to expand on it because the terminal is so powerful. It's way more powerful than the GUI, and you can be way faster doing things because you could do batches and mass things in one command as long as you're quick. As long as it takes a little bit of, you have to learn to ride your bike again, but you'll be way quicker. So tonight's exercise for this is just very similar to yesterday's exercise. Okay, so we'll show it to you. I include a cheat sheet, okay, command line cheat sheet here, that has like all these files, most of the stuff that I've covered plus some other stuff, okay. I include a tips and tricks file, okay, to help you navigate around. Hey, here you go. Output with less. How do you navigate with less? Okay, I got you back. Okay. Tab key directing output, right? What I just covered. Piping. Okay, take a look at this. How to navigate with the control key, bringing your cursor to the end of the line, bringing your cursor to the beginning of the line. And then finally, our exercise, which is no exercise at all. Advanced Bash. Oh, let me post the exercise. I have it. I don't know why it's not in there. Watch lessons 10 to 14. And exercise number 2, Bash. Download and save, create a new file, print the contents out, print it out in a paginated manner, use grep, delete it, all the commands that we did today. Plus like a bunch of like, run all this and then explain what these things do. Okay, so I want you to run some commands and pay attention to what's going on and then explain based on the results that you got. What are these things doing? How do they work? How do they act? Okay, this is some wildcarding practice. So you need to do this one in order to do this one. Research the sleep command, research a new command, and research the ampersand command. Okay, so do some new research. Any questions? So you got your work cut out for you for the rest of the day?
Just to make sure, watch lessons 10 to 14, you mean shell work thing?
Yep, yep. It's a link directly to it. So if you
Okay.
click on that link, it'll bring you to lesson 10, but just go up to 14. That's including 14.
Okay.
So it'll bring you here, should be lesson 10. Yeah, lesson 10, curl, cat, less, remove directory, grep, word count.
Yeah.
Do not watch 14, actually. You don't need to watch 14. I don't cover
Okay.
shell environment variables. So.
Okay.
Okay. All right. There you go. Again, I have another meeting at 2 o'clock today. Today, tomorrow, and the day after that, unfortunately. Stressing me out. So you can send me questions. I'll do my best to answer. I probably won't be paying very much attention in the meeting, honestly. So I'd probably rather help you anyways, but I may not be able to jump on chat with you. Okay, so probably just through Discord. Okay, any questions before we go? I keep losing people in the afternoon. It's unfortunate. All right, so see you tomorrow, 8:45. Enjoy. You're closer to becoming hackers. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.